Today's question is from Alexa. She writes, Dear Katie, I keep hearing of parents who are opting their children out of sex ed. What are some guidelines to figure out if my school's sex ed program is unacceptable? Thanks, Alexa. Okay, Mama, glad you're on top of this, because when it comes to sex ed, being proactive is key. Now, before you can evaluate your school's sex ed program, first understand what your kids need to know about sex and why. Number 1, they need information on the male and female reproductive system. Number 2, they need to understand the changes their bodies will experience during puberty and the kind of hygiene this requires. Number 3, they need to be clear on the physical and emotional bonding of sexual activity. And number 4, they need to understand that sex is a gift that unites husband and wife in marriage. Now, at Canavox, we think it's your job as parent to teach your kids these truths with the ultimate goal of self-restraint for the sake of their long-term sexual health and happiness. If the school's reinforcing this information, awesome. Unfortunately, what often passes as sexual education these days is actually a gateway to sexual exploration at the expense of our kids' long-term health and happiness. So step 1 is to get your hands on the actual sex ed material that the school will be using. Some educators may want you to take their word for it when it comes to the content of the material. Don't. You need to see it with your own eyes. And if you see the term comprehensive sexual education on the cover, this is what you're likely to find inside. Number 1, it has an obsessive emphasis on sexual pleasure, such as teaching kids to say things like, I like it when you touch me there. Number 2, it communicates that gender is fluid. Some kindergartners are being told that they can choose their gender. Number 3, it may include graphic material such as instructions on masturbation, anal, and oral sex. And number 4, it introduces behaviors that are not age appropriate, such as teaching kids as young as 9 to use a condom. So the Canavox leaders and I would all pull our kids out of a class if any of these crazy, innocence-violating things are on the docket. If you want more details about the realities of today's sex ed, I recommend going to stopcse.org. And if you want specifics on how you can talk with your child, go to the Canavox website and check out our tips for talking with your child about sex. When it comes to sex ed, the stakes are high. But when you make sure that your kids get age-appropriate information without distorted ideology, then Alexa, you've got this.